Brother Thomas began his inquiry within the hallowed halls of his Dominican monastery. The air hung thick with the scent of aged parchment and beeswax candles. He sought answers not in theological dogma alone, but in the accounts of those who came before. First, he consulted the ancient texts. Pliny the Elder spoke of dragons in India, guarding hoards of gold and precious stones. Thomas pondered the veracity of these claims, separating potential embellishment from possible truth. He then turned to Isidore of Seville, whose etymology offered a different perspective. Were dragons mere figments of imagination, allegorical representations of evil, or something more tangible? Seeking other viewpoints, Brother Thomas journeyed to a renowned Benedictine monastery, its library legendary for its collection of ancient chronicles and obscure treatises. He sought counsel from the elder monks. The Benedictines shared local legends, tales whispered among the villagers of dragons guarding hidden treasures, their fiery breath scorching the earth. He told of Saint George and other dragon-slaying saints. He pored over bestiaries, illuminated manuscripts depicting dragons as symbols of strength, chaos, and the untamed forces of nature. Each depiction was more elaborate than the last. Thomas grappled with the theological questions. Could such monstrous creatures truly exist within God's divine plan? Were they instruments of divine judgment or manifestations of the devil's influence? Debates arose regarding the nature of these creatures. Some saw them as demonic entities, spawned from the depths of hell to torment mankind. Others believed them to be natural, albeit rare and powerful, creatures of the earth. Another theory surfaced, that dragons were not inherently evil, but guardians of the earth, protectors of ancient wisdom and hidden treasures. This concept challenged the conventional view of them as agents of chaos. He noted the common threads that ran through the various accounts, the association of dragons with hoards of gold, jewels, and ancient artifacts. What was the significance of this connection? Was it mere symbolism, or a reflection of some deeper truth? Brother Thomas diligently recorded his findings, meticulously documenting each source, each theory, each contradiction. He began to formulate his own hypothesis, a framework for understanding these enigmatic creatures. As the sun set, casting long shadows across the library, Brother Thomas knelt in prayer. He sought divine guidance, asking for wisdom and discernment as he ventured further into the labyrinthine world of dragons, hordes, and belief. Aquitaine, 1172. Lady Eleanor faced a realm simmering with discontent. Rebellious barons tested her authority, and whispers of dissent echoed through the countryside. The weight of the duchy pressed heavily upon her. "Enough," Eleanor declared, her voice resonating with the authority of a seasoned ruler. "We will not yield to these petty squabbles. Aquitaine will stand united." A messenger arrived, bearing news from a remote village nestled within the Pyrenees. Tales of strange occurrences had begun to spread, livestock disappearing, fields scorched, and whispers of a dragon's lair filled with unimaginable riches. Eleanor read the report, a flicker of intrigue in her eyes. A dragon, a horde. Superstition perhaps, but superstition held a power of its own. She summoned her most trusted advisor, a man whose knowledge of history and human nature was as vast as the Aquitaine territories themselves. "The people are easily swayed by fear and greed, Your Grace," the advisor cautioned. "To exploit these legends is a dangerous game." Eleanor understood the risks, but she also saw an opportunity. A dragon, real or imagined, could be a powerful tool. Fear could be a weapon, and the promise of wealth a potent lure. She ordered the dissemination of the dragon tales, subtly amplifying the rumors through courtly channels and traveling minstrels. The message was clear. Aquitaine possessed a power beyond measure, a power that even dragons acknowledged. Fear spread like wildfire. The peasants, already burdened by taxes and hardship, trembled at the thought of a dragon's wrath. But alongside the fear, a spark of hope ignited the promise of untold riches. Elinor watched as her gambit unfolded. She had planted the seed of fear and desire, and now she would wait to see what would grow. Summoning Sir Reginald de Courtenay, Elinor tasked him with maintaining order in the affected region and investigating the rumors of the dragon's horde. Whether the horde existed or not, Elinor had set in motion a chain of events that would test the loyalties of her subjects and perhaps, ultimately, consolidate her power. The Duchess's gambit had begun. Sir Reginald, a knight sworn to the Courtenay family, found himself the unwilling shepherd of a flock consumed by fear. The village of Montaigne was abuzz with tales of a dragon's horde, stirring anxieties and threatening to unravel the fragile peace. The old woman, Alara, claimed her grandfather had seen the dragon's lair, a cave hidden deep within the Dragon's Tooth Mountain. Reginald listened patiently, separating the kernels of truth from the chaff of superstition. Alara's map was vague, filled with fantastical beasts and winding paths. Still, Reginald recognized the landmarks: the Whispering Falls, the ancient oak, the Devil's Chimney, a starting point at least. With 2 loyal men-at-arms, Reginald set out towards the Dragon's Tooth. The forest was thick and unforgiving, the air heavy with the scent of pine and damp earth. The Whispering Falls proved Alara's map had some merit. Reginald paused, listening to the roar of the water, a natural symphony that masked any other sound. The ancient oak, its branches twisted like skeletal arms, stood sentinel on a small rise. Reginald felt a prickling unease, a sense of being watched. The Devil's Chimney, a dark and foreboding crevice in the earth, reeked of sulfur. Reginald drew his sword, the steel glinting in the moonlight. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced his resolve. The tracks were unlike anything he had ever seen. Large, 3-toed, and deeply imprinted in the mud. Not bear, not wolf, something else entirely. "We continue," Reginald said, his voice firm despite the tremor in his heart. "But we proceed with caution. Something is here, something unnatural." The tracks led into the Devil's Chimney. Reginald, with his men behind him, reluctantly plunged into the darkness. The cave opened into a vast cavern. Strange, unnatural rock formations jutted from the walls. The air was heavy, stifling, and carried a strange, acrid smell. In the center of the cavern, a chilling sight. A mound of bones picked clean. Animal bones, yes, but also human. The rumors, Reginald realized with a sickening lurch, might be more than just rumors after all. Within the quietude of the monastery library, Brother Thomas delved deeper into accounts of dragons. He meticulously recorded the descriptions of their hordes, noting the recurring presence of gold, jewels, and artifacts of forgotten ages. A pattern began to emerge, a connection between these mythical treasures and the darker aspects of human nature. He sought wisdom in the ancient texts, turning to the sagas and epics of old. He recalled tales of Beowulf battling a dragon for its hoard, and the ring of the Nibelung guarded by Fafnir. He pondered the significance of these stories, their enduring appeal across cultures and generations. He began to formulate a theory. The dragon's hoard, he reasoned, was not merely a collection of riches, but a symbol of earthly attachment and the corrupting influence of wealth. It represented the baser desires of man, the insatiable greed that could lead to ruin. He considered the moral implications. Could the dragon, as a guardian of such a corrupting influence, be seen as a necessary evil, a deterrent against unchecked avarice? Or was it simply a manifestation of evil itself, preying on the weaknesses of men? He presented his ideas to his fellow friars, sparking lively debates on the nature of good and evil, and the role of temptation in the human experience. The refectory buzzed with theological arguments, as minds clashed over the meaning of the dragon's hoard. Meanwhile, Lady Eleanor, ever the pragmatist, saw the dragon's hoard through a different lens. She considered the political implications, the power that such a treasure could wield in the hands of a ruler. She summoned scholars and historians to her court, seeking out accounts of dragons being used as symbols of power and intimidation. She wondered if the mere perception of possessing such a hoard could bolster her authority and quell dissent. She knew that true power lay not just in gold and jewels, but in the strength of her armies and the loyalty of her vassals. Yet, the allure of the dragon's hoard was undeniable, a tempting shortcut to influence and control. Sir Reginald, still tasked with quelling the unrest in Montaigne, found himself increasingly frustrated by the villagers' obsession with the dragon's hoard. The search had become a distraction, diverting their attention from the real threats facing their community. He tried to reason with them, reminding them that even if such a hoard existed, its discovery would likely bring more trouble than it was worth. Greed, he warned, was a dangerous master, capable of corrupting even the most virtuous soul. Yet, even as he preached caution, a part of him couldn't help but wonder if the rumors were true. He led a small contingent of men to investigate a newly discovered cave entrance, hoping to finally put the matter to rest, one way or another. As he peered into the darkness, Sir Reginald couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to uncover something far more significant than a simple hoard of gold. He wondered if they were about to awaken something that was better left undisturbed. Aquitaine, 1172. Lady Eleanor, ever the shrewd strategist, recognized the potent influence of symbols. While others dismissed dragons as mere fancy, she saw an opportunity to forge a powerful image for her duchy. Eleanor commissioned the creation of grand tapestries. These were not mere decorations, but declarations of strength, each depicting dragons, fierce and untamed, bearing the colors of Aquitaine. The tapestries themselves were masterpieces. Azure scales shimmered, crimson flames danced, and the dragon's eyes, meticulously stitched, seemed to possess a life of their own. The Aquitaine colors were subtly woven in. When foreign emissaries arrived, they were greeted by these imposing displays. The message was clear. Aquitaine was a force to be reckoned with, powerful and unyielding like the mythical beast. The fear, the respect, the awe all were carefully cultivated. Eleanor understood that perception was as vital as reality in the Game of Thrones. Heraldry had long served as a visual language of power. Lions, eagles, and griffins adorned shields and banners, each creature embodying specific virtues and ancestral claims. Eleanor's innovation was to elevate the dragon beyond mere heraldic representation. She made it a symbol of Aquitaine itself, intertwined with its very identity. The dragon became synonymous with Aquitaine's vast lands, its fertile fields, and its strategic position. It was a claim of ownership, a warning to trespassers. The rebellious barons, once emboldened by Eleanor's perceived weakness, found themselves facing a new, formidable opponent, the dragon and all it represented. Elinor watched, with a knowing glint in her eye, as the dragon's shadow spread across Aquitaine, solidifying her rule and silencing dissent. Even the coinage bore the mark of the dragon, embedding the image into the very fabric of everyday life, reinforcing Aquitaine's identity. And so, the dragon, once a creature of myth and legend, became a political instrument in the capable hands of Lady Elinor, a testament to the power of belief and the enduring influence of symbols. The sun, a pale disk in the misty dawn, cast long shadows as Sir Reginald led his men into the wilderness. The villagers watched them depart, their faces a mixture of hope and apprehension. The hunt for the dragon's hoard had begun. The terrain was unforgiving, a tangled tapestry of thorny bushes and ancient trees. The map, pieced together from the ramblings of a few locals, offered little clarity, its markings as cryptic as the beast they sought. The river proved a treacherous obstacle. Its icy waters threatened to sweep them away, testing their strength and resolve. Reginald, ever mindful of his men, urged them forward, his voice a reassuring presence against the roar of the current. They encountered a lone peasant, his eyes darting nervously. Reginald questioned him about the dragon's lair, but the man feigned ignorance, his fear betraying his words. The locals clearly knew more than they were willing to reveal. Deeper into the woods, they found evidence that lent credence to the rumors. A massive, clawed footprint marred the muddy ground, a chilling reminder of the creature they sought. Doubt began to creep into the hearts of even the most hardened soldiers. As the days passed, tension began to fester among the men. The allure of the hoard, coupled with the fear of the unknown, fueled petty squabbles and simmering resentments. Reginald found himself spending more time as a mediator than a commander. Hope flickered when they stumbled upon a hidden cave, concealed behind a curtain of cascading water. Could this be it? The entrance to the dragon's lair and the gateway to unimaginable riches. Reginald, ever cautious, ordered his men to proceed with care. Swords drawn, they entered the cave, the darkness swallowing them whole. The air grew heavy, thick with the stench of damp earth and something else, something ancient and unsettling. The cave proved to be a false lead. Empty and barren, it offered no treasure, no dragon, only the bitter taste of disappointment. The men's morale plummeted, their hopes dashed against the cold, hard reality of their fruitless search. Greed, however, did find its way into their hearts. Reginald caught one of his men attempting to pilfer a handful of glittering gemstones from a hidden crevice. The knight's disappointment hardened into stern resolve. "We are not here as thieves," Reginald declared, his voice echoing through the clearing. "We are here as protectors. Any man caught stealing will face the full consequences. Let this be a lesson to you all." The incident cast a long shadow over the remainder of their hunt. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Reginald stood alone, contemplating the day's events. The hunt for the dragon's hoard had become a test of his leadership, his men, and his own integrity. What would tomorrow bring? Brother Thomas journeyed westward, his destination the court of Lady Elinor. He carried with him not only his research, but also a hope that her patronage would allow him to further explore the mysteries of dragons and their place in God's creation. Elinor, ever vigilant, received news of Brother Thomas's approach. Intrigued by the friar's reputation for intellect and his interest in the dragon lore, she anticipated their meeting with a mixture of curiosity and political calculation. Upon his arrival, Brother Thomas was granted an audience. He presented his research to Lady Elinor, carefully outlining his findings and the questions that remained unanswered. Elinor listened, her sharp mind dissecting his arguments. She was not merely interested in the existence of dragons, but in the power of the belief in them. If dragons are real, Brother Thomas argued, then they must have a place in God's divine order. Are they agents of evil, or do they serve a purpose we cannot yet comprehend? Elinor countered, perhaps the belief in them is more potent than their existence. Fear, Brother Thomas, is a powerful weapon, and a well-placed myth can be as effective as an army. Meanwhile, Sir Reginald's search for the hoard led him closer to the borders of Aquitaine. The rumors had become persistent, whispers of a dragon's treasure hidden somewhere within Elinor's domain. He interrogated villagers, seeking any clue, any hint of the dragon's presence or the location of its legendary hoard. Each inquiry brought him closer to the truth, and closer to Elinor's sphere of influence. Elinor received reports of a knight from a neighboring territory inquiring about dragon lore and treasure within her lands. She suspected that Sir Reginald's quest was more than just a hunt for gold. It was a test of her authority. Brother Thomas pondered Elinor's words. He realized that the power of belief could be manipulated, used for political gain. The line between faith and superstition blurred, and he questioned his own role in perpetuating the dragon myth. Sir Reginald stood at the edge of Elinor's territory, his ambition fueled by the prospect of treasure and the glory of facing a dragon. He was on the verge of crossing a line, both geographically and politically. Elinor, aware of Reginald's approach, prepared for his arrival. The stage was set for a confrontation, not only between two individuals but between differing beliefs, ambitions, and the enduring power of the dragon myth. Sir Reginald halted his patrol. Days of fruitless searching had led them to a previously unnoticed fissure in the hillside. It exuded a damp, earthy smell, promising either the dragon's lair or a damp grave. Torchlight flickered within the cavern, revealing not the charred bones and sulphurous stench of a dragon's den, but something far more unexpected. The air was cool, almost artificially so, and the walls bore the marks of tools, not claws. Etched into the stone were faded Roman inscriptions, remnants of a forgotten age. The cave, it seemed, had once been a Roman sanctuary or perhaps a storehouse, long since abandoned. Then they found it, not a dragon's hoard of jewels and bones, but a cache of Roman coins, gleaming dully in the torchlight. The dragon's hoard was, in truth, an ancient treasure untouched for centuries. A wave of conflicting emotions washed over Reginald. Relief that there was no dragon, excitement at the find, but also a heavy sense of responsibility. This was not their treasure. "It belongs to us, Sir Reginald. We found it," growled Sergeant Elaine, his eyes fixed on the gold. "The villagers believe in dragons. They won't miss a Roman's trinkets." Reginald wrestled with his conscience. The men were owed a reward. Times were hard. Surely a small share wouldn't be amiss. But the principle was everything. The allure of the hoard was undeniable. He could use it to better the lives of his people, to strengthen Courtenay lands. But at what cost? "We will not touch it," Reginald declared, his voice echoing in the cave. "This belongs to history, to the land. It is not ours to take." A murmur of discontent rippled through the ranks, but Reginald stood firm. He would not yield to temptation. He would uphold his duty. They sealed the cave's entrance, concealing the treasure once more. Reginald knew his decision would not be popular, but he believed he had done the right thing. As he looked out over the village, Reginald wondered if he had truly saved them from a dragon, or if the true beast lay within the hearts of men, a beast that craved gold and power above all else. Sir Reginald stood before the villagers of Montaigne. The dragon's hoard, or what remained of it, had been unearthed. It was time for the spoils to be distributed, not hoarded. The artifacts, though fewer than the legends foretold, were divided with fairness. A silver chalice to the church, embroidered tapestries to families who had lost their homes, and tools to those who tilled the land. The remainder of the gold, deemed too much for the village to handle responsibly, was prepared for transport to Poitiers. Lady Eleanor would put it to good use in Aquitaine. In the quietude of the monastery, Brother Thomas meticulously compiled his notes. Years of research, countless hours poured over ancient texts, had led him to a profound realization. He addressed his fellow friars. The true dragons, my brothers, are not winged beasts of fire and scale. They are the embodiments of human greed, the insatiable lust for power, and the enduring strength of belief, however misguided it may be. The power of belief, he mused, could shape reality, could conjure monsters from the depths of imagination, and drive men to acts of both great courage and unspeakable cruelty. In Poitiers, Lady Eleanor received word of the successful recovery of the hoard, and the subsequent distribution and contribution to Aquitaine's coffers. Her strategic mind immediately calculated the implications. The dragon's hoard had served its purpose. It had diverted attention from more pressing matters, consolidated her power, and reinforced the image of Aquitaine as a realm of legend and might. She understood the power of symbolism. The dragon, whether real or imagined, was a potent force, a tool to be wielded with care and precision. Myths, she knew, shaped perceptions and controlled narratives, and in the Game of Thrones, perception was often more valuable than reality. Sir Reginald returned to Montaigne, leaving the gold in the capable hands of Aquitaine's Duchess. He had faced a dragon of legend, and found it to be something altogether different. The scars of greed and fear ran deeper than any physical wound. And so, the chronicles of dragons and hoards continued, not as tales of fantastical beasts, but as reflections of humanity itself. The dragon, it seemed, lived not in caves and mountains, but in the hearts of men.